Welcome, everyone, to this Clubhouse event. Your energy, your health, be responsible with empowering solutions. I would like to start by raising the vibration in this space that we're in now by calling for the highest possible vibration and calling for the truth to come forward into our discussion so that the truth can be seen, heard, and spoken, and that we all be in that frequency of truth and have nothing but the truth. Shall I call for the divine feminine to bring balance back into our world, showing us the way through honor, respect, and gratitude, and calling for the highest possible vibration? I ask everyone if they can take a sip of water, as water holds memory, and ask for the water to hydrate our brain and body. Now, take a deep breath in. 3, 2, 1, and let it all out. And take another deep breath in, bringing in peace, joy, gratitude, and life, and exhaling out, releasing all stress and worry, all that does not serve you. And Lakish and Veritas, everyone, I call for the oneness and truth of the information shared by each call, calling in that frequency of truth, all so that we all can experience all that is truth, as it is our purpose to bring forward the truth, so that we all can benefit from this information shared with honor, respect, and gratitude to you all. The greeting in Lakesh signifies unity, where everything is related to one another, where everything and everyone is connected. It is the idea of a community where we can share with one another ideas, goals, aspirations, so that we all, as one, can benefit and thrive. And Lakesh is that declaration in which we are clearing our spaces, the space we're in now, so that we're able to bring forth the truthful, elevated, enlightened discussion this evening, clearing away those thoughts that we tend to pick up and carry with us from our everyday life experiences. The words En Lakesh and Veritas is a powerful affirmation to assist in bringing clarity and a greater understanding of truth to all who are present and to all who are listening. Our words have power, so let us remember and decide to use our words carefully, using words of upliftment, encouragement, and enlightenment. By doing so, as a collective, will help us to transform our spaces and places into higher frequencies and better experiences for each and every one of us here, as well as for those who we touch. So, in Lakesh and Veritas, everyone, with honor, respect, and gratitude. So before we begin, I'd like for everyone to again hold their water in their hands. And now ask for your water with intention in mind to send in the frequency of Enlakesh to your water. Then take a sip of your water. We are 70% water, and water holds information and memory, thereby assisting in incorporating this elevated frequency of Enlakesh into our cells and into the subatomic space within our bodies. By doing this technique, it will allow for the ease and flow of the information we will be sharing with one another here this evening. I just want to remind everyone that you can access this recording to this Clubhouse event and recordings from our prior Clubhouse events on Vimeo and on YouTube. Just search Enlakesh Studios, and please remember to subscribe if you have not already done so. You can also find more information and content on enlakeshstudio2.com so that you can keep up to date with the information and content that's continually being added. All right, let's get started with the information that we're talking about today. A few weeks ago, we revisited information about impending shortages in our food supply. And we talked at the time, we talked about, was it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about baby formula shortage. We also talked about other potential solutions that we can start doing now, today, going back to the basics. So I was listening to a podcast yesterday where they were providing information about the farmers, how to farm, and what's out there as far as going on with our current food that exists without being adulterated. farming will allow for the removal or the reduction of the pesticides that we're being exposed to, the GMOs, and that will create improve significant healing with each other, even cures from chronic illnesses that plague us today, the diabetes, the heart disease, and the so-called autoimmune diseases, which frankly a diagnosis that the autoimmune diagnosis is something when they can't figure out what's caused or what it is caused by these various symptoms, and they just call it autoimmune disease, basically autoimmune attacking self. So our bodies are deteriorating with this adulterated food, and the solution to that is thinking we're starting to grow our own food, taking care of it ourselves. Now, as you're aware, the American diet is very deficient in many, many, many nutrients and contains a lot of fillers, products that we cannot even digest, that leads to what is referred to as a leaky gut. And it's a technical term described as an inability for the intestines, your intestines, that normally absorbs digested food to absorb the needed nutrients because of the destruction of the normal lining, a gut lining, the lining of your intestines, and by those non-nutrient anti-life products that's injuring and damaging our gut flora and our gut mucosa. Did you know that the so-called snacks have little or no nutritional value? And you also have to be aware that even though something says organic, you must do your research to determine how the product was grown or harvested. And then let's not even talk about the many contaminants that are out there in our food supply, pesticides such as the glyphosate, plastics, and even the products that we excrete in our urine that it gets reabsorbed because it goes into our soil, such as the hormones from birth control pills, from a myriad of medications that we take, all excreted out and dumped into the soil. There are many podcasts out there that are sharing this information that is prompting us that we must start growing our food to restore our health in our gut and our bodies. It is now coming to the point where we're going to have to make changes in our lives in order to survive, especially when it comes to our worsening health care. Live food in its unadulterated state is highly vibrational. And from a bioenergetic standpoint, being a higher vibrational state is healthier. If you think about it, for such an industrialized country, the US statistically has one of the worst healthcare disparities. And a lot of it stems from the food that we eat and the food choices that we make. Solution? We have to start thinking about getting together as a community, organizing and figuring out what we need to do to start doing things to heal ourselves. No one is going to do it for us. We have to start thinking about doing it for ourselves. So over the past week, I've asked Tiffany to speak on several occasions on Clubhouse to speak about the bees and sharing her expertise when it comes to the bees, their organization, and the products that they produce, with its benefits to man and the environment. And I've asked Tiffany to join us here today again to speak more on this subject as an expert of keeping the bees, as a communicator of the bees. And I've asked Tiffany to share with us information of the bees themselves and how they can help guide us through their example and the steps that we can follow as we prepare for the changes that are about to occur in our country and in our world with regards to food shortages and supplies. There's an imminent decline in our viable food and live food, and not that fake stuff that's out there. So Tiffany, welcome, and thank you again for agreeing to come to Clubhouse to share with us information on the bees and the various products that come from the bees that can help us.
Thank you so much. In Lakesh Veritas, with honor, respect, and gratitude. Can you hear me well like this?
Yes, I can very well.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want me to begin by saying anything, but I just had a lovely experience at the Hive that I wanted to share a moment
Oh, yeah,
ago.
absolutely.
um, I I just went out and sat next to the beehive, and it, as always, I mean, it's always magical. Whenever, I don't know if you feel this way, even just interacting with the bee flying around, but when I'm sitting next to the beehive, there are thousands of bees coming and going, flying around, working, organizing, communicating. And I just sat there and I closed my eyes and just held my hands out to the side, and my whole body started to vibrate, kind of
Mm,
like what you're saying, this highly vibrational experience. And I could feel their energy working through me, and it was as if they assisted in my light body being activated.
mhm.
And I immediately was filled with like such gratitude and such love, and started thanking them and telling them I love them. And it's always a similar experience when I'm out with the bees and at the beehive. But today, maybe because we were about to speak, but the vibration was even stronger. Like, I felt like if I would have held something in my hand, it would have been moving. Like, that's
Mm,
how palpable um, the vibration was. And um, I realize that all interactions with bees, whether you're just looking at a bee flying by, or at a bee pollinating a flower, or if you're holding a bee or touching a bee or petting a bee, as my 4-year-old likes to call it,
mhm.
or thanking them, or ingesting the products of the hive, it is all a highly vibrational experience, and it elevates us and it raises our vibration because of the frequency that they are at. And
Yes.
so all interaction with them is also interacting with the divine feminine, with that creation energy and life
Mm,
building and organization and order. And so when we're ingesting any product of the hive, they all contain these frequencies.
mhm, mhm.
And so not only are we getting, all of the powerful benefits that, I can go into the details of that in a moment if you want me to, but um, the frequency and that vibration, it's interesting that that's what you started to talk about, because that's the first thing that, whether you're interacting with them by looking at them and touching them, or ingesting the products of the hive, that's the first uh, benefit
Mm,
that we gain.
right. Well, what about, so for someone, someone that's, just the comment, the most people, they tend to be afraid of bees because they're fearful of getting stung.
Right, right.
What do you
uh,
say to someone?
Well, it's
Have,
interesting because bees, uh, they are here to not only complete their functions on the earth, but they also are here to help us in so many ways. So
mm,
they're never here to hurt us. I mean, if a person gets stung by a bee, it's either that the person is doing something to get in the bee's way, or picks something up that the bee is on and squeezes it, or steps on a bee, or it's, just um oh, what's the word, like misidentification. Like if a bee gets stuck in your hair or something, a bee is flying in the path to a flower, and someone's walking and not paying attention, the bee accidentally bumps into the person's head, and then it gets stuck in your hair, and then you're trying to get it, I mean, these are the types of situations um that I've experienced when people have gotten stung. I've never in my life observed a bee just fly up to someone and sting them, because
now,
when a bee stings someone, they die. And so they're
oh,
not
yeah,
trying to sting people.
right, right. Now, what about, wouldn't you say that they also feel the vibration of that person that's around them? If they're fearful, they know that, and then they would pick
Well,
up
of
that
course.
energy, and then, then retaliate.
Well, yes, in a sense, but also, if a bee sees a giant like a human flailing around and freaking out, they're going
Yeah,
to try to get away from that human. They're not trying to then like take it on and um, kill themselves for no reason. If you are
right.
standing in front of the hive doing that, then yes, it would be an intentional assault, for lack of a better word, right? Then
Oh,
if you were
a high,
standing in front of a hive,
yeah.
flailing around, hitting a hive or swatting at the bees, then the bees would come up, and try to defend and protect themselves. But when bees, all insects, just like all animals, sense fear. And
Hmm.
so and they sense the opposite vibration of calmness. And so I've worked with bees for over 10 years. I've never been stung once. I mean, I've been around thousands and thousands and thousands of bees with a tank top and shorts on, like, and
Right,
i've
right.
I've never been stung. And my daughter has never been stung. She was sitting next to the hive on my lap naked the other day. She's 4, and we were like a foot away from thousands of bees flying in and out. And it just the only experiences I have had with my husband getting stung actually is when he was very fearful. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't that they went up to him intentionally to sting him. They literally got caught in his hair, or he was mowing the lawn and one was on his pants, and he started freaking out and flipping around and trying to hit his pant. And so then they feel like they're being attacked.
Right, right.
Mm.
Mm.
But a super side note, because even though bees are, the calmer that we are, the calmer, everything will be around us. If I start
Right,
acting like a lunatic and my child's around, she's going to start acting like a lunatic. But
right.
if I'm very calm, she's calm. But um,
That's where basically clearing the energies and the frequencies in our environment play a role.
absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely, we have always, every house we've ever lived in, because we keep it very clear. The moment we walk outside, bees are there to greet us always. I mean, almost within like a minute or two of being outside, a bee is flying around us or landing on one of us, just to say hi,
Right.
or to be given in Lakesh Veritas, or to be thanked. Um, but if someone ever does get stung, just for to understand how to deal with it, never pinch the stinger, whether it's a bee or another insect that stings, a wasp or something. Never pinch the stinger and pull it out like you would a splinter. A splinter, you're going to grab the ends of it and try to pull it out. But if you pinch it, it's going to push all the venom into you, and
Mm,
so it's going to make it swell up or itch or sting even more. And so what you would do is get like something hard, like a credit card or your license or something, and flick it out, like from the skin part out. You would just flick it. And then
mm,
plantain, not like the types of plantains that look like little banana chips, but plantain that looks like a weed that grows in the ground, uh, is a really powerful expectorant and wound healer. And so I've been at parks before, and somebody has gotten stung, and we just look around, we find some plantain, we wash it off, and we chew it up and put it on it.
oh,
and
okay.
and it'll pull any of the venom out. And so does lavender essential oil. So sometimes if we can't find plantain, we'll just put a drop or two of lavender essential oil right on the area once the stinger's out, and it helps tremendously.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Wow, I didn't even know that. Thank you for that information.
Absolutely. And not to say on the concept of stinging, but um, many people get nervous because they're like, oh, so and so is allergic to bees. Very few people, it's like 1% of anyone who would ever be stung by a bee is truly, truly like anaphylactically allergic. And
Hmm.
so most people are going to swell up a little bit. It's going to itch. It's going to be, but it's not, you know,
Right.
always a
Well,
major situation.
type reaction.
Right.
That's
Right.
basically. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
And a
Interesting.
little honey on top of it. I mean, honey is very medicinal, as well, and it speeds healing. And so we don't really use it for bee stings because we don't really get stung around here, but like at our house. But if we have a wound or something, we would use honey.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Thank you. That's great. That's great. So, what are the some other things that
So, oh, go ahead.
yeah, that you can share with us with regards to bees and then their products too? Because I know you're the expert, and there's multiple products and things that we can get from the bee, the hive, the
Right.
honey, everything that's beneficial for us.
Well, and even before even getting the products of the hive, just bees in and of themselves, and I talked about this briefly on our talk about bees. Uh, they clear the ether, they clear the air, and so when bees are flying
Yeah.
around us, if we can just stop what you're doing and be calm for a moment, your experience is going to be lighter and more clear because they have been in your presence. And so a lot of times, um, you know, I'll recognize, oh, I needed to, that part of my body needed a little bit more clearing, or, oh, interesting. That's the area that the bee was flying around my head, or, oh, they were flying around my waist. And so it can help you tap into what's going on with you that needs a little further clearing. And then we can thank them for also, doing that.
Yes.
And so it's
Energetic.
very
Basically,
powerful.
right. It's basically tapping into the consciousness, and it's an energetic clearing, just like quantum like property clearing. I think that is
Right.
their version of quantum like.
Absolutely. Well, and all of it. I mean, it allows us to be also in this state of just utter gratitude and love and awe for creation. I mean, I was watching ants the other day, and they made this
Uh-huh.
massively long line from this trash can outside all the way around the entire property. And I just watched this line, and every single ant stopped and talked to the ant in front of it. Like, it, have you seen this? Do you know what I'm talking about? The ants would,
Yeah.
they go and then they stop
Yeah.
for a moment to communicate and they keep going. It's remarkable, and it's so,
Or
if,
they're so
yeah,
organized, just like bees. Oh, there's so much to
right,
learn from
right.
that.
And that's what, the products of the hive, when we're ingesting them, whether it's honey, whether it's bee pollen, whether it's propolis, whether it's beeswax, and we're using it on our skin or even burning it. Burning beeswax clears negative ions from the air. I
Mm.
have a beeswax candle in my hand right now, and I keep smelling it, and it's just like intoxifying. I mean, it's so, just smelling beeswax is so calming. And because all of these products of the hive are created by bees, um, either in their bodies in and of themselves, bees create beeswax from their little wax glands on their body. They create honey, um, combining the nectar in um, the flowers and their own saliva, which has powerful enzymes in it.
Mm.
And the same with bee pollen. It's a straight pollen from the flowers. And propolis, they also utilize enzymes from their own bodies and gather the resin from trees. And so all of these products naturally increase our vibration, right? They naturally increase our immunity physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Bees share our human genome, and so they directly impact what's happening in our bodies. And, I don't know if you want me to break down a little bit about each of the products, but um,
Yeah, because are you gonna describe? Because I was gonna ask you to share with the audience the propolis. You know.
yeah, so right. So propolis is the antibiotic of the hive. So the honey is the carbohydrates and it gives the energy to the hive. It's the sugar of the hive. The bee pollen is the protein of the hive. It's the builder of the hive, and um, the propolis is the antibiotic of the hive. And so propolis is this really sticky resin that they gather from trees, a lot of times pine trees and other trees that naturally, just like where they're getting their nectar and
Is it
their pollen
is
from.
that
Go ahead.
similar to the oud
Yeah,
that's
yes,
secreted from the pink
like this.
oil?
Yes, the stuff. Yes, yes, it is similar, and also they can get some resin from leaves, like really super thick leaves as well.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like the sticky substances that they're getting off, and then they use it to literally cement their hive. So if
Mm.
anyone has ever seen a beekeeper open a hive, they have to use hive tools because the lid is secured on with, it seems like, with glue,
Mm.
with bee cement, some people call it. And it really is just this sticky substance that is incredibly medicinal. It is, as all products, the honey and the bee pollen as well. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and
It
antimicrobial,
sounds kind
antibacterial, antiviral.
It sounds
Say
similar
that
to
again.
sounds similar to aloe gel, the aloe vera gel. It would.
It's way stickier than that, but it is
Oh,
like that. Yes.
okay.
It's almost like sap.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yes.
sap.
Sap.
Yeah, like the stickiness of sap from a tree. Like if you get it on your clothing or on your fingers, it's hard to get it off. That's what
Mm-hmm.
propolis is like. And so it is, so they're able to literally seal any opening to prevent any air from getting in, to prevent any negative or low vibrational energy from getting in. and and so they're covered on the inside. They do the same thing. They're covered with this super high um, uh, antibiotic, for lack of a better word. I mean, we in our home use it as antibiotic. If we were to ever need something like an antibiotic, that's what we would use. We would either use it in a tincture form, um, which it's pretty intense and powerful that way. Um, and sometimes can burn your throat a little bit if you just do it straight. And so we would mix it with like honey or lemon oil, or just squeeze lemon juice and honey in it and do a little shot of it. The way I like to use propolis the best is in a spray. Just it's kind of like the natural, more powerful form of chloroseptic.
Mm. Now, how can you get that? Do you make it? Do
I
you?
personally don't. I am looking for a good um, source to source a spray from. And so I'm in the next few weeks hopefully going to be able to find a good source for a propolis spray.
Okay.
Um, right now, where I source my bee pollen from in New Zealand, they have a propolis tincture, which I might even be able to convert into a spray. And so I'm trying to kind of play around with that at the moment. But you can, local beekeepers are the most ideal place to begin for something like honey and even propolis. Some beekeepers will dehydrate propolis, and you can even buy it in small amounts and make even little tinctures or sprays yourself.
Hmm.
Some local beekeepers will sell propolis tinctures. And did I just say that? And then you can actually make a spray. Um,
Okay.
but in terms of local, I do want to say this: honey is, if you can get local, is one of the most ideal ways to do it, because it contains a lot of the local properties that can help seasonal allergies.
Mm. Okay.
Uh, and if you go to a local market to get honey, and right now I am also just not outsourcing honey, simply because I don't have a large enough supply to do that. But if you go to a local market, it's important to ask certain questions, like, do you leave some of the honey for the bees? Do you feed your bees high fructose corn syrup? Or
Mm.
do you
Yeah.
let them eat their own honey? Do you use chemicals on your hive?
Yes.
Or do you actually, um, where is your hive situated? Is it situated next to monocrops, or is it, in a field that next to the woods where a lot of, natural pollination is happening? Because, if bees are pollinating flowers that have pesticides and insecticides on them, then the honey has pesticides and insecticides in it. Um, and that's the if the bees even make it back to the hive, if the pesticides and insecticides haven't killed them. um,
Right.
and that's the biggest issue with bee pollen, because bee pollen um, is literally just straight pollen from the hives that the bees have gathered and into little balls and put in their pollen sacs, and then when they fly back to the hive, uh, if there's a pollen catch on the hive, for a beekeeper to collect the pollen, then it just removes those little pollen sac balls of pollen. And if you're eating bee pollen in the United States, Purdue did a study,
Yeah.
and they tested 100 samples of bee pollen across the US, and 100% of them had anywhere from 6 to 150 different types of pesticides in them,
Oh, wow.
because bees fly in a 3-mile radius. And so it's very challenging to find someone who has a hive who in 3 mile radius, they can be sure that pesticides aren't happening. And so that's why I source my bee pollen from New Zealand, because they just have stricter regulations on pesticides, and a lot of the hives out, and there are just more natural areas out there. But the beekeepers I get mine from, they're close to a lot of manuka fields and just natural forests. Um, so the bee pollen is unadulterated.
Okay. Okay. That's assuring. And you basically, that's where you source your supply. You now, your company, you have that available for people if they're interested in ordering that, correct?
Bee pollen, yes, I do have bee pollen available, and bee pollen is um, I sell it in it's about like a 4 ounce jar. And some people, I mean, it lasts them for years. Some people, it lasts them for months. It just depends on how used to people are at ingesting bee pollen. If people have never had bee pollen before, I suggest you start small with just a few kernels at a time and kind of build up over the course of a few weeks, just as you're getting that pollen into your system. And the pollen itself, even though New Zealand isn't local for any of us. Well, I don't know who's on the line, but local for me. um, and so it's not providing the seasonal allergy component. I make sure I eat local honey for that component. But bee pollen in and of itself is super powerfully rich in all sorts of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. And I mean, literally, there are thousands of things it does, but it lowers inflammation. It reduces damage in our cell walls due to oxidative stress. And it actually, interestingly enough, even though it increases energy levels, it also can help to improve sleep and
Mm.
improve moods. And it has some B vitamins in it that assist with enhancing our mood.
Yeah, it
And
sounds like, well, it balances out like the circadian rhythm, probably.
well,
It's
it does, for sure, and that's what, and honey as well, actually helps people have sounder sleep, which it seems fascinating because it does have some sugar in it, but and
yeah.
bee pollen also
Me.
detoxifies the liver
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Detox.
and can lower cholesterol and reduce joint pain. I mean, it's like the list goes on
Yeah,
of
it's like a
the
superfood.
benefits.
Then. It's almost like a superfood.
It
There.
really is. It actually might be considered a superfood. I'm not sure, but it's a superfood in our house. I mean, we do not get sick very often, and well, I would say rarely. I mean, I've been sick, I don't know, once or twice, and probably since I've become a beekeeper over the last 10 years. And prior to that, I was teaching high school, and I was sick every 3 months, like
Mm.
legitimately, like from the time I started school as a student to the time I quit teaching as an adult. There wasn't a quarter that I wasn't sick. There wasn't a year I didn't have strep. There wasn't a year I didn't. I mean, it was just quite excessive over the course of 30, 35 years. Um, but once I became a beekeeper and quit taking medications and quit teaching and moved to the woods and lived off the land and ingested honey, for that was our dessert. We'd have a little bit of honey at night, and we would have some bee pollen every day, and we would burn beeswax candles and use propolis if in the dead of winter in Ohio, if it was really dry in the house and our throats were scratchy. And it just, we're just not sick. And nowadays we add ionic silver
Mm-hmm. Mm.
and garlic. We have always used
Right.
garlic
Yep.
as well.
All the pretty much the immune protocol.
Right. And
Ionic silver
bee pollen. Go ahead.
sustenance, but it's that that the fact that it supports the liver is huge, though. It's huge. Yeah.
I agree. And I also, our two biggest detox organs are our liver and our skin.
Mm-hmm.
And honey is a very powerful, not only honey and beeswax being powerful additions to a skincare routine and putting them in creams or products and whatnot, but doing a honey mask. Like I always like to, I'll scrub my face with either a little bit of DNA salt, the fine DNA salt, or a loofah, and then I'll put a honey mask on. And I just mean like sticking my hand in the jar of honey and slathering it all over my face and neck. And then it drips down and you get to lick it.
I know, that's what I'm gonna say. You just lick it off your face.
Oh, I do. And then sometimes I'll sit in a salt bath with it, and then it starts to melt even more, and it's just quite decadent. But
Yeah.
um, and honey, this is I almost always forget to say this because this isn't an issue that I've ever encountered, but honey is said to help hair regrowth.
Oh yeah.
And doing like honey massages on your scalp,
Mm.
um and I've read studies before where people have had balding issues and have done like a regimen of a honey mask on their scalp, or added a teaspoon or a tablespoon of honey to their shampoo,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah. They have a lot of those conditioners with honey in it. Honey and for your hair.
Right. I'm
So.
actually, now that
Hmm.
we're saying this, I'm going to do this tonight. I will say though, it's when I first became a beekeeper, I was so excited about honey, and it was one of my favorite things in the world, and I fell into that. Replace all sugar with honey. Bake bread with use a cup of honey instead of whatever cupcakes you're making. And two things. One, cooked honey is not good for our bodies. Cooked honey increases
Mm.
inflammation. It increases aerobatically, like the alma, the stickiness in our bodies. And so cooked honey is different than like you have hot tea and you put a spoonful of honey in it after it's not boiling. Cooked honey, I mean, like, don't bake a honey ham and stick the honey on it before you bake it. Or like
Oh,
orange
I
jam.
haven't heard.
Do you know what I mean? Like, don't. Hmm.
Don't take it and actually cook with it. Just but you can put it in some tea that's already sitting there, and you're gonna drink it right away, and this shouldn't be
Right.
effective.
Or if you're going to drizzle it on something like a meat or a vegetable that you've cooked, do it after you've taken it out of the oven. Don't put it in the oven, um and also don't bake with it. Don't use it as a sugar replacement in your baked goods or your breads or whatever. And not only because it's not
Okay.
appropriate to cook honey, but also, bees only make about a twelfth of a teaspoon of honey in their lifetime. And so, just out of honor and respect and gratitude to these magical beings, using a cup of honey anytime for one thing is just not appropriate.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh. Well, yes, definitely,
Um,
definitely.
and bee
Yeah.
pollen, I do also want to say that it's the light of the hive. It's coming from all of these like vibrant, bright flowers, and so bee pollen, you know, brings to the hive light, and the bees are able to, based on the light frequencies of the flowers, are able to gauge um, uh, what they're pollinating. But it brings that light back into us when we ingest it, and so we're also ingesting color, and we know how valuable it is to look at color and to ingest things that are living color and living nutrients, and they have these medicinal properties and healing forms, or healing powers that the flowers, also provide to us. They strengthen the bees, and then if we're ingesting it, it strengthens us as well.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So,
Um,
you've given us information on the bee pollen. Is there anything? I mean, this is superfood.
it's
I
a
was always.
superfood, and
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
I was just going to say, when people start ingesting it regularly, we have it every morning.
Yeah.
And, I started my daughter off with a few kernels, but, now she has about like a half a teaspoon a day. And I
Uh-huh.
probably have anywhere from like a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon a day. So just kind of that um, amount, serving amount is appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it tastes good, so I'll easily eat a half a teaspoon, I even a quarter. But then I want to basically kind of like savor it. so I'll just have it in the morning.
Well, yeah, that's how we are in our house. We don't add it to anything. we like we literally, I don't think my daughter's ever eaten it on anything. Um she did one time taste something. A friend had some sort of like cupcake or something with sprinkles on it, and that's not what we eat in our house. And she picked a circular sprinkle off of it and put it in her mouth, and she was like, "Ooh, that's not bee pollen."
Oh, wow.
It was like my finest moment as a mother.
Yeah. Yes, you've taught her well.
It was so funny. And um bee pollen, as I'm saying this now, uh I don't always have it in stock because the supplies are low, as all of you know, all around the world for everything. And so I don't always put it on my website, but I do
Yeah.
currently have some in stock, and it'll go really quickly. So if anyone is interested in it, I would normally not do this, but I'm just going to tell people to, I would just say text me.
Mm,
And I'm happy to give my phone number. I have my phone number on my website,
right.
as well, unless you want to do it differently, Delilah.
Yeah, no, no. And could you share with everyone your website address?
Yes. My website address is BEE dash inspired, INSPIRED .info. And then if anyone is interested in ordering bee pollen, over the course of the next few weeks, or whenever, my phone number is also on my site, but just for ease, 614 You can just text me if you're interested in ordering a bottle, and I'm going to be shipping them out later this week. And
Yeah, I'll
and
be
it comes in one of the infinity bottles, which we know that that holds food, especially living food. um, and bee pollen is that, with the vibrancy of the flowers, will help it hold long.
right, right. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I'll be placing my order soon as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Mm. And then, I mean, you've given us so much information with regards to the bees, the products, the uh, propolis, the honey, bee pollen, I've been in one of your classes, but can you share with everyone, are you having any more classes so that people who are interested in learning more about, the bees?
Yes. Yes, I am. I There's a bee bonding class that I've been doing with adults and children. And it's been really lovely. The focus has been a little different than the classes that you had taken, Delilah, where the focus was on uh, products of the
My
hive, how
right,
to, right, like, there was a bee healed and a bee healthy and a bee beautiful class. And so those
right.
classes are going to be coming back around. So I would say just um, look on the website for those, and you can even either message me on there, you can text me, and I can uh, let you know if you're interested on when the new dates are for those classes. The bee bonding class is the last Thursday of every month, and we're in the process right now. Some children who aren't homeschooled have gone back to school, and we're dealing with West Coast time, East Coast time, and Central time, and so we're trying to adjust that. So for this week, we're actually going to move it to next week, possibly. But in the
Yeah.
future, most of the classes are the last Thursday of the month.
So when you have your classes with the children, because you do live classes, because your daughter obviously
Right.
is there,
hmm
but you have like her little friends, or your friends' children also in the class with regards to like the bee bonding and so forth, so they can learn how to be around the bees.
Absolutely. And so a lot of times, the classes that I have done here with Jade and all of her friends, we have done it on a different day than the live class, because sometimes she just likes to be very focused, and she likes to be, the assistant teacher, and help everyone who are doing it online with. And so
Right.
recently, the classes that we have done online, we've focused with the people who were in other states and walking them through what we were doing in class. But we have even gone on virtual nature walks. So one of our first bee bonding classes, we went on with Stacy and her children, and Lauren and her daughter, and we all brought our little computers outside, and all went on our nature walk together, and talked to the bees and thanked them, and did the things that I do in my live classes as well. Um, Teaching children to hold their right hand out, because the right hand is energy that's giving, and that we say thank you to the bees for pollinating, and thank you for clearing the air, and for the honey, and the bee pollen, and then we just kind of walked around and observed what we were able to see, what the bees were doing. In front of our house, we have this little babbling brook, and our beehive is in the back of our house. And on any given day, we have anywhere from 5 to, I don't know, 50 plus bees just right drinking water right out of our babbling brook. And so when we have live classes, we're all standing there, and observing the bees, and watching their little proboscises, their little tongues drink the water. And at first, some children are, a little hesitant, because the bees are quite, in quite large numbers right at the water source here. But they get really calm, because they realize they're on their mission. They're flying in to get the water, flying out, and when they're getting their water, they're not interested in anything else. And so Jade had a little friend over the other day, and their parents are very like-minded, and love bees and always thank them. Um, and the children, all three of them, were playing, I don't know, maybe like a foot from the babbling brook the entire afternoon. And I should have taken a picture. There were just bees swirling all around them the entire time they were playing, and not one of them even budged. I mean, actually, one time, one of them ran around and said, "Oh no, a bee got in the water and they're drowning. You need to come help and save it." And so
Mm,
we were able to save the bee. But um, it's interesting. Everyone who has come over to our house for the class, no matter their level of apprehension or fear before they came, by the end, they all want to walk up to the beehive and stand right next to it, and
mm.
just watch the bees fly out. It's I think a lot of times children pick up on adults' energy, and every child I've ever seen flail and run away, their parents are doing the same thing.
Right, right, right. That's so
And
interesting.
so,
Yeah, I think of that story that Tavares had you would share with us when he went and purchased a beehive and had the whole hive in his car and
right,
drove an entire hour with them, and they
right,
didn't.
and they didn't, and they were close enough to them for him to, for them to see the little hairs on the bees, and how cute and adorable they were. And yeah.
Right, right. Oh, that's so cool. So, for someone who's a newbie that's interested, they can take your class, learning more about it and how to get started if they wanted to create, build their own beehive, start a beehive on their property.
Yes, and they
And
can. And I also do private consultations. And so on my website, you can book a private consultation. Or since
mm,
the number I have on my site and that I gave out is one that's able to be texted, you can also text me for that opportunity as well, or a private live class, for something very specific. Um, whether it's to create a hive, or just, to do a one-on-one with certain products that people are interested in learning how to make things out of. um, I Even though the bee bonding class is for adults and children, it's not only child based. The adults who have taken it have said that they found value in it as well. And we've also, every class, we do a craft project associated with it for the children, to
Mm.
be engaged on a different level. However, last week we made last month, it's the last Thursday of every month. I don't know if I said each week. I think I said each month.
You might.
But we made chapstick last month, and we made sunscreen, sunscreen sticks. And so that was really fun for adults and for children. And this week, the classes moved to next week, but we are going to be doing sculpting, beeswax sculpting. And so I'm telling you, I find that more adults are into this. I mean, children love it, but they kind of have a threshold. I have found that adults, like, for hours, want to just like sculpt with this beeswax, and it's really fun and beautiful. And then the following month, we're going to do candle making.
Mm.
And so it's really, there are a lot of ways that we're interacting with the bees and with the products. And if it's a live class, we always do a taste testing. That's a
Yeah,
given.
of course.
um,
Uh-huh. So
and
no.
the sculpting, actually, especially for children, but I found for adults of all ages, is rather meditative, and just utilizing your hands, and doing things that involve having to create and come up with ideas, but that dexterity of using your fingers to create something, um, that anyone can make something with, is really special.
And this is online too, right? So anyone can join
Yeah.
online.
This is online, and the a lot of so the chapstick and the sculpting and the candle making, um, most of the people that signed up for those classes, I also purchased a craft kit. And so they could have easily purchased all the items individually. I told them what all the items individually were. They could have outsourced them themselves.
Mm.
But I also was selling a craft kit at the time. And
Oh,
so I sent all of the ingredients needed for the chapstick holders, all the beeswax, all the candle makers, and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that I will put together for anyone, on like I don't have a lot of them just in stock. It's something I make per order. So I'm happy to do that as well for people.
can you
Mm.
tell me
Okay.
that again? Your Be Inspired. What is it? Be.
Yes, BEE dash inspired,
Uh-huh.
inspired
That info.
and
Oh,
dot info. Yes, correct.
okay. Got it.
Um,
Got it. Perfect. Perfect. Uh,
And all of the classes that I've spoken about so far, other than the sculpting and the candle making, because those we haven't done yet, but the class on making chapstick, and the well, that one has been recorded, and then the introduction, the first bee bonding class, was also recorded. So those are options if people just want to watch recordings. Sometimes people sign up for classes, but they don't have time, and they're not interested in, or they're not interested in being on live. So recordings are always an option as well.
or okay. Nice. Nice. All right.
And
So
for
I
people,
want. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say, for people who want to start sculpting with beeswax, there are certain types of beeswax that you can buy for sculpting if you just go out on your own to try to find them. I'm not necessarily talking about going to the farmer's market and getting a large chunk of beeswax and trying to sculpt with that. That would be very challenging.
Mm. Okay. But I mean, just doing that is meditative to be in your class and then sitting there and trying to sculpt something. I think that it'd be worth your while doing a class with you to sculpt, utilizing the
It's
beeswax.
really fun. Right. And everything we put on our skin, we absorb into our body in, less than 30 seconds. And so when you're interacting with, something that was made from something in nature, um, a lot of the beeswax, that some of it that we're sculpting with has color to it, but they've been, dyed naturally. And so that's a bonus as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. I'm gonna open up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions for Tiffany? This is like a wealth of information. I'm looking for taking
I have
another class. Yes,
a question
Anahara.
there.
Oh, Stacy too. Yes.
I just want to share my gratitude for Tiffany. We did participate in the class, and like she stated, I think I learned more from the class than the kids. But it's been so beautiful to see. All of our fear around bees have pretty much subsided, and we were just on a walk yesterday through the forest preserve, and it was some flowers, and it was just 20, 30, bees, and the kids were just like, "Look at them, they're buzzing, come see them." And it was
Mm,
just to see them element and just be comfortable and like just marvel at them. It was such a proud moment. So again, in gratitude for Tiffany and just feeling the clearing, as you stated. I was outside earthing the other day, and a bee came and landed on me, and I was just like, "It's okay, as long as I'm not fearful, we're okay."
right.
So just the knowledge that she has shared has really changed everything, and just being in gratitude to the bees as well. Like I was one of those people that used to frill around and be scared, but now it's
Right.
just to see the appreciation that they give, like the appreciation to them for all that they give us. So in gratitude for Tiffany and for assisting us all for overcoming and seeing the beauty that the bees bring to us. And the Catch Me
Yeah.
Veritas.
Thank you so
I'm
much
so
for
happy to hear that. Yay.
thank you for sharing. Anahara, I saw you had unmuted yourself. Did you have anything?
Yes,
Question?
I have a invitation very much with honor, respect, and gratitude. Tiffany, I love listening to you talk about the bees. It's just such a beautiful relationship that you have with them. And I have a question. When you were carrying Jade, how did the bees
Could you
respond?
sorry, Anahara, can you come closer to the you're kind of fading.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, much better. Thank you.
Okay, okay, wonderful. So when Tiffany, I love listening to you speak about the bees because there's such a beautiful relationship that you have with them, and I'm in such gratitude for you sharing that with us, with me. And my question is, when you were carrying Jade, how did the bees respond?
Hmm. Well, that's a beautiful question. It's really interesting because the bees helped prepare me and my body to carry Jade.
Mm,
Ugh,
And it was a calling of being with the bees and stepping away from the rat race of the life I was living and to get calm and be in nature, that I started to learn how to be calm, to grow something, and to be in that divine feminine energy. And um, it's interesting because when I was carrying her, we were in a transition in life and didn't have an actual beehive. We had moved from Ohio and our from a house that was built in 1790 that our friends rented from us and then eventually bought, and they took care of our bees when we then moved to California, and then we moved to Florida. And in Florida, it's when I met Lota and Of the Sun and learned about um, getting in the vibration of being a mother and motherhood, and was able to then, along with fermented vegetables, I think I shared this, then I was able to then get pregnant. But even though we didn't have a beehive, the house that I lived at in Florida when I was carrying Jade was surrounded by bees daily. I mean, bees would literally come inside the house. They would come in the back door. And then I would say, okay, we need to go back outside. And I'd bring them outside the back door. And then I open the front door and they'd come in the front door. I mean, it was just like this constant, and it was so fascinating. And then fast forward, it was such a frequency, and they were there constantly, is what I'm trying to get at. But
mm,
fast forward, we left that house when Jade was 6 months old and moved back to California. And one of my friends, I was just renting that house. One of my friends bought that house in Florida.
Mm.
And unbeknownst to me, without even knowing my connection to bees, because I didn't have a beehive when she met me. So she didn't know necessarily that I was a beekeeper. She started calling the house the beehive. And she and her boyfriend would say, okay, let's go meet at the beehive, and or I'll meet you back at the beehive in 5 minutes. And all of her decorations had to do with bees. And then when she found out I was a beekeeper and then we had bees in California again, she lost her mind. And it was just so evident that the bees were so present there the entire time that
Mm.
I was pregnant. And funny enough, the first class I ever taught on bees was with Lota and Tavares at Of the Sun. My husband and I went up there, and Jade was just born, and it was the first offer that I had to, talk about a class about bees. And so it just, she was very much a part of all of this, and she's bees are very much a part. Love her, and she loves them, and it's a daily interaction and appreciation.
How beautiful. Thank you so much
Sorry,
for
that was a
sharing that,
long-winded story. I'm
Tiffany.
sorry.
No, it was just
Oh,
it was just absolutely perfect. Thank you so very much. And Lakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude.
that was such a great story, wealth of information. And that goes to show you, with communication, we talked about communicators. There's always some sort of like inherent something within you from before. We're all able to communicate with the consciousness of various things. And you had that consciousness kind of innate in you before you officially delved into doing things with the bees, being the beekeeper, learning and being that expert. That's the same with me, being a communicator of the trees, Father Tree. I kind of, before delving into it, I had a bunch of decorations in my house on of branches down to the towels in my bathroom. Did my
Oh,
furniture
wow.
art.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so it's just interesting. And Lauren talked about the flowers when she started out very young, connecting with the consciousness of flowers, and Serenia and the herbs, walking around talking to the herbs, and just in the love and the awe with that. So thank you
It's
for
so
that.
interesting too. My birth force number is an 8, and the bees fly in a figure 8 pattern. And
Mm,
the house I'm living at, the address is an 8. The 15-digit parcel number adds up to 8. I mean, it's very much interconnected.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Tiffany. So again, your website, I pulled it up again too, is bee-inspired.info. You can find more information, sign up for our classes, order. If you want to order products, you can go on the website, and there's an email address. So we gave, this is B Inc. is one way to be able to order the bee pollen, because I'm actually going to be doing that myself. So thank you so much for this valuable information that you just shared with us.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you letting me speak on all of this. I would encourage people, if they want to order the bee pollen, to send a text to 614-562-4923, just because a lot of texts are coming through on it. So I want to make sure that people, I'm able to get it to everybody who wants it quickly.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to also remind everyone that of our Divine Nation workshops, that's a schedule every 2 Fridays of the month via Zoom conferencing, working with the Call for Truth Divination card deck, the companion for the Call for the Truth publication by Lauta Rasul. These are great workshops. I recommend and encourage people to sign up. They're completely free and very enlightening, fun to be, receptive environment. So I encourage you to sign up. The next class, and it's hosted by Diane Annis of Enlica Studio One. And our next class is on Friday, October 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. and that would be 5 p.m. Pacific. And then I also would like to invite everyone to our whole responsibility meditation sessions hosted by Enlica Studios on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Time for only 30 minutes, tapping into the power of Ho'oponopono. And then we're also doing these bonus sessions on Wednesday at 6 a.m. for 45 minutes for those who are interested. Also hosted by Enlica Studios. And again, thank you again, everyone, for joining. I look forward to seeing you next week as we share more tools of empowerment for everyone to benefit and share. And remember, knowledge is power. Taking action from this knowledge is true power. With honor, respect, and gratitude, and Lakesh and Veritas.
Lakesh and Veritas, on respect and gratitude.
Invocation Veritas with all respect and gratitude.
Invocation Veritas, for honor, respect, and gratitude.